Greetings. Hi, I'm Rebecca Grossman, the Family Services Manager at SightLife. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Like I said, I am the Family Services Manager at SightLife. I have been here for almost 10 years now in this position. Obviously, I really love this work that I do. It's a truly unique opportunity to work in donation and work with our families like yourself, work with people who give unconditionally.
Hello, and I am Stacy Dolman. I'm the Family Services Specialist. So glad that you're all here. Before I joined our Family Services team, I had the privilege of working with SightLife as a transplant donor coordinator. So I was the person who was calling families day and night to have the conversation with them about their loved ones' potential to help others through cornea donation. The incredible support and generosity of our donor families is just a truly inspiring and beautiful testament to our community, and I'm so glad that you're all here with us tonight.
Thanks, Stacy. SightLife is the world's largest nonprofit eye bank and global health organization dedicated to renewing hope and healing through corneal blindness prevention and sight restoration. Most of you are donor families and are probably familiar with SightLife as the folks that worked with you during your loved one's cornea donation, provided aftercare services to you and your family. That is such important work, and we do so much more. More than 12.7 million people globally suffer from corneal blindness, making it one of the world's leading causes of avoidable blindness. 80% of the conditions that cause corneal blindness are treatable and preventable. But the corneal health care interventions that can treat and prevent those conditions are frequently out of reach for patients in low and middle income regions, where 90% of the people suffering from corneal blindness live. SightLife draws on our sight restoring experience here in the United States to help our partners strengthen the eye health and primary healthcare systems in which they operate. We do this through awareness and prevention, advocacy and policy, clinical training, eye bank development, and access and innovation. So tonight's webinar is our first in a series that we are bringing to you from Family Services. And these are opportunities for our donation community to connect, learn, and celebrate donation. As you know, tonight we're kicking it off with stories of transformation. But you may or may not know that this month is Donate Life Month, which celebrates organ, eye, and tissue donation. So what better way to celebrate than by hearing from people who truly have been impacted by donation. And we find that these stories from our recipients do such a great job of explaining just how important cornea donation is and just how much of a difference a cornea donor makes in somebody's life. We have 3 recipients that are going to share their stories. We have Linda from Pennsylvania. We have Michael from Washington State. And we have Jason from California. They're going to be sharing their stories and also some pictures of their lives so you can see just, you know, the things that are important that their vision has brought to them again.
And while we are here to celebrate and to learn from these 3 recipients, we also are here to hold space for the memories of the donors whose last act was that of such kindness and generosity. We cannot celebrate the immense joy of receiving a transplant without also acknowledging the deep sorrow of the loss that preceded it. Every story of transplantation begins with a donor family during a time of grief and sadness, saying yes to donation. And that incredible gift, that yes, begins a new chapter in the story of a stranger. And all of us here at SightLife are so grateful for this opportunity to introduce you to 3 of those strangers and for them to share their stories with you tonight. But first, we are going to go over some webinar logistics. Everyone in the audience will remain on mute and your cameras are not visible. So audience members, don't worry about background noise or turning your cameras on or off. First, our speakers are going to tell their stories, and then we'll open up the forum for questions to our recipients or questions for Rebecca and myself and Family Services. And you can ask your questions and you can interact with us and with each other by using the chat box. And Rebecca is going to help us practice to do that now.
Yes, we are going to do a short tutorial of how to use the chat box. And some of you may already be familiar with this. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Excellent, because this has been a very Zoomish year, but it doesn't hurt to go through it again. All right, so this is the bar that you should be able to see on the bottom of your screen. It may look a tiny bit different, but basically everything will be there. So we're going to focus in on the chat box, and that is, there's a word bubble and it says chat, and that's what we're going to be primarily using. I'm going to ask a question and you're going to use the chat box to answer. And when you do that, please choose all panelists and attendees. We encourage you to do that. If you don't want to, that's okay. But when you choose that, then we all will be able to see your answers. If you're on a tablet or a phone to bring up that bar, you might need to lightly tap on the surface first, and that should bring up it. So, okay, here we go. Using the chat box, please answer these following questions. How are you connected to donation? Are you a donor family, cornea recipient, SightLife staff member, donation advocate? Of course, you may be several of these things. And then also, where are you Zooming from? So how are you connected to donation and where are you Zooming from? So how are you connected to donation, Stacy?
Well, my connection is I'm a SightLife staff member by day, donation advocate by night. And
I like it.
I'm Zooming from Seattle here at SightLife headquarters.
All right, funny, I'm here too. So we have a recipient Zooming from Sacramento, California. We have quite a bit of staff members and donation advocates. They seem to go hand in hand. We have a donor family from Pennsylvania. Wow, this is going really quick. Oh, we have Claire here, our CEO. Thank you so much for being here. The Hankies in Pennsylvania. We have a donor family from Palm Springs, California. Nice. Oh, we have a donor family from Seattle. Yay. Oh, we have a wife of a donor from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Wonderful. One person.
Mexico, Pennsylvania, from all over the country. We have people here.
Yeah.
Great.
That's great. Thank you all for being here. I felt like I was sort of narrating a sports thing or something. Okay, that was great. We're going to ask you another question now. Oop, there we go. If you were to lose your vision, what do you think you would miss seeing the most? Maybe you're someone who has lost their vision. If you did, what did you miss seeing the most? So if you were to lose your vision, what do you think you would miss seeing the most?
Oh, I see so many answers about our loved ones and our families. I could not agree more. I would miss seeing my loved ones, my dogs, and now looking at pictures, since I haven't been able to see a lot of my family in a while. I love being able to see them in their pictures.
Yeah. My children growing up over time, the faces of my families and friends. Oh, my family in peaceful places, the beauty of nature. That is for sure. And such a beautiful day like today made me think I would so miss being able to see the trees blooming and the blue sky.
Oh,
Yeah.
the moon and the stars. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, the love in someone's eyes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing on both of those things. The other function that you can use during this presentation is the Q&A box. And this is something I won't bring up to everybody, but the hosts will see it. If you have a question that's maybe during the presentation, you can ask your question there. We'll try and get to it if possible, either audibly or we'll type it in. Just to let you know, we hope to get to all your questions and be able to answer them. If we don't, please feel free and contact us after, and we'll make sure that that gets answered.
And I thank you everyone for your answers and sharing that. I love reading those and just seeing all the beautiful things that we miss and maybe some of us take for granted. It's really wonderful to see how many of you, would miss your loved ones. And with that, I actually would love to introduce our first speaker. We have Jason, who is joining us from Northern California. And Jason is a father of two. He is a husband, educator, and a double cornea recipient. So Jason, if you could unmute your microphone and please tell us your story.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you all very much for being here today. As was just said, my name is Jason Millay. I want to start by thanking you for allowing me to talk with you tonight. I am an educator, a husband of almost 15 years now, and a father to two beautiful girls. I am also a double cornea transplant recipient. A little bit about me. Growing up, I was always had glasses or contacts. I never thought twice about my eyesight. It was just something that I always had. But in 2004, while at college, I began to experience really blurry vision. My optometrist said she couldn't fit me anymore with contact lenses due to the shape of my cornea. I had developed astigmatism, she said. I think we've all heard of that term before. I was referred to a specialist who wasn't able to diagnose anything other than the astigmatism. This pattern of going into specialists continued over the next 4 years and across 3 states. While I was in Oregon for undergraduate school, Illinois for graduate school, and then in Sacramento, where I now live and work. No matter where I was or who I saw, there wasn't anything they could do to diagnose me. So I wore different types of contacts, hard, soft, or sometimes I didn't wear anything at all. Nothing worked. The only thing that was steady was my eyesight continued to deteriorate. And when I say deteriorate, what I mean is streaky, kaleidoscopic vision. Things were not where they were supposed to be. Everything was very fuzzy, hazy. There was always a haze around anything I saw. Everything had the look of a Picasso painting, kind of. I lived like this, knowing my eyesight was continuing to get worse for 4 years. It wasn't until my brother, who had always had perfect vision, called to tell me he woke up and noticed his eyes were a bit out of focus. He went to the doctor and was diagnosed with this eye disease called keratoconus. Over the phone call, we shared each other's symptoms and came to the realization that keratoconus is exactly what I have. 2 days later, I was in the optometrist's office sharing my brother's story, telling the doctor I think I had keratoconus too. Within 2 minutes and a quick glance at my eyes, after 4 years in 3 states, I was quickly and simply diagnosed with keratoconus. For those that don't know, keratoconus is when the cornea thins out and bulges like a cone. Changing the shape of the cornea brings light rays out of focus. As a result, your vision is blurry and distorted, making daily tasks like reading, driving, and all those other things difficult or nearly impossible. I was referred to Kaiser and to Dr. Lightman at Kaiser, who worked with me over the next 4 years on stabilizing my eye disease. She fitted me with gas permeable contact lenses that were designed to stabilize my cornea. Still, over those 4 years, my eyesight continued to decrease. I missed work and had to cancel things with family and friends due to eye infections, what seemed to pop up every other month, headaches from the vision that were crippling. More importantly to me, I was unable to drive, read a book, or watch a movie. Cooking became difficult. The simplest of things that for years I did with my wife became too much of a task, that I pulled away, isolated, and became depressed. My independence was being taken from me slowly but surely. It was fading along with my eyesight. The emotional toll it took on me and my wife hit a low when I, with the support of my wife, made the decision to not start a family. My wife and I had a 5-year plan: complete graduate school, get jobs, see the world, and get started professionally. Then and only then start a family. I did not want to be a father who could play catch, read a book, who couldn't play catch, read a book, watch a movie, or see them smile. In October of 2012, I went in with another eye infection to see Dr. Lightman at Kaiser. Quickly it became clear that it was time to have a transplant. Dr. Lightman walked me over to Dr. Moore's office, who did a quick examination and told me someone would be calling me to schedule the time and day of my surgery. Within 1 week, I had a surgery date of December 12th. On the surgery day, I went in at 7 a.m., got an IV, had some laughs, shared some nervous tears, and went to sleep. Next thing I remember, it was noon. I was home with a giant patch on my left eye, and the next day, with a giant patch on my eye. The next day, I went back to see Dr. Moore. This is what I was most nervous about. The first time I saw with my new cornea. This is an experience I will never forget. The patch came off, and while my vision was not great yet, I could see. Everything was in its place. I walked the hall back to the car with my wife and my mother, reading every sign I could. I just kept saying, that says, I can read that. I can see that. It's clear. We went home and began the months-long recovery plan. 6 months later, on May 1st of 2013, I went in and had a second cornea transplant on my right eye, for my right eye. By June of 2013, my eyesight had returned to pre-2004. Gone was the kaleidoscope and blurry vision. Gone were the headaches, the eye infections, and replacing them were my ability to read, watch a movie, see the moon. I could drive. I got my independence back. The things that were taken from me were back, and I felt capable again. I got my life back. Along with this came the desire to begin a family. My wife and I decided to adopt 2 little girls, and in September of 2013, just 9 months after my first surgery, we brought home our 2 girls. We play catch, I read them books, we cook them dinner, I drive them to gymnastics and soccer games. I am the dad I always wanted to be for them. All this, me getting my life and independence back, is because of everyone in this room. Thank you, I thank you, and my family thanks you. In April of 2014, I was able to say thank you to a person one of my 2 cornea donor families. My right eye cornea donor, Nick, who is right here. I have a picture of him. His fiance, Sarah, and he was a fiance to Sarah and a father to Katie. He was a son and he was a friend to many. To me, he saved me and my family. He gave me my life back. Every day I wake up and I see his photo. He reminds me to do good in the world, earn the greatest gifts every day he gave me. So thank you to everyone in the room. to the doctors, the specialists, to SightLife, who all help people like me. But most importantly, to the families in the room, thank you for your kindness and compassion. Thank you for making the time or taking the time to consider someone else and helping another human being while in the midst of a family loss. Thank you to the family member who cannot be here today. Your gift to others in your last act is the greatest gift anyone can receive. In your family's toughest of moments, one in which it can be easy to be focused solely on your family and grief, you all instead chose to give. Thank you. Nick's gift wasn't just to me, it was to my wife, Kathy, who got her husband back, my two daughters, Frankie and Jenna, who got a chance at a better life. It impacts my entire family, circle of friends, the students I work with. Everybody is touched by this act of kindness. Your gift of organ and tissue donation has a ripple effect and continues to impact generations and communities for years to come. You and your family members are the true heroes. Thank you very much.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Jason. I had the great pleasure of meeting Jason, his wife, and his children, and I just have to say it's just an incredible family. And to know that, you know, his cornea transplant helped create that family, gave him the encouragement and confidence. Sorry, I'm talking like you're not there, but gave you the courage and
totally okay
to start that family is just, it's just great. So thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Whew. Our next storyteller is Linda from Pennsylvania. Linda and her husband, Bob, share their home with their two dogs, Randy and Dixie, and their two cats, Charcoal and Shadow. Guess what color Charcoal and Shadow probably are? They enjoy visits from their blended family of 6 children, 23 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. Wow. Please welcome Linda. And Linda, you can start your video and unmute yourself. And I can help you with that if you need. Whoops.
I can unmute, but I can't start my video. It won't let me.
Oh, let me see. Can I start your video?
I hope so. No, she's asking me to do it. Okay, now I will do it. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Okay. That was me that was asking you to do it.
Ah, okay. Technology, gotta love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason, you're a tough act to follow. Let me say that first of all. So good evening to everyone. Thank you, Rebecca, for the invitation. Thank you, SightLife, for the opportunity. It is my honor to be here with all of you tonight. So my story, truth be told, I must admit that I had been remiss in going to the eye doctor for several years. It seemed to me that every time I got new glasses, they only seemed to be good for a short time, and then everything was blurry again. I knew that I had cataracts developing, and as my vision was deteriorating, I finally decided it was time to choose a new practice and a new eye doctor. When my exam was complete, the doctor looked at me and said, "Well, I can certainly see why you're having problems, but there's no eyeglass prescription I can give you to make it better." My heart dropped. What did that mean? Was I going blind? He looked at me and said, "I'm recommending that you see an eye surgeon," which I did. And upon that examination, it was confirmed that the cataracts were at the point where they should be taken care of, but that I also had corneas that were scratched and scarred, and that I should consider cornea transplants. This really came as a shock because I had never even heard of such a thing. How did this happen? No one really had a good answer. It could have been environmental, it could have been hereditary. Well, I knew I wanted to see better, and so I moved forward to have the transplants done. We started with the right eye, first the cataract, and then a month later, the cornea tissue transplant. About 3 months later, the second cataract was removed. And at that time, my sight was so improved that I almost didn't go through with the second transplant. Looking back, I'm not really sure why, because the first one went so very, very well. To quote the surgeon at my 3-day post-surgery checkup, "You and your donor are getting along extremely well." And so when I expressed to him that I was thinking about maybe not having that second transplant, first he looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. And he wanted to know why. Well, I didn't have a good answer. And so he kind of tried to talk me through the reasoning. And I said, okay, we'll do it. The second recovery took a whole lot longer than the first one. But it was definitely worth it. One of the first things that I can remember distinctly once I was able to get in my car and drive again was that the stoplight was so vividly red, and the green light was just like this big ball of green. They're just so bright. It was also winter time by the time they were both eyes were done, and the snow on the ground was just absolutely blinding. As springtime came around, I was able once again to truly appreciate the beauty of creation, especially while sitting at my breakfast table with a cup of coffee and looking out over our backyard, the trees, the flowers, the birds. I found this same beauty while driving in the car and taking walks with the dogs. And then came summer and fall, and I had almost forgotten how much I loved the colors of fall. One of the other hints that told me I couldn't see well was while I was riding on the back of the motorcycle. We have a lot of backcountry roads close to home that we enjoy. And as we ride, Bob would point out a deer or something in a field, or he would point to something in the sky, and he would say, "Did you see that?" And I would say, "Nope." And this would happen frequently during the ride. "Did you see that?" "Nope." Well, he will tell you that he thought at the time I was either ignoring him or just not paying attention to what he was saying. That doesn't happen anymore. It was truly amazing to realize just how much I had been missing. I was also experiencing a lot of frustration while using the computer. My world was dim and fuzzy, and my failing eyesight had actually been a decision factor in my second retirement. As an avid reader, I lost one of my favorite pastimes. Now I work on the computer, I watch TV, I can see all those objects in the distance, and I can read. It's just a totally different world, one that is clear and bright and beautiful. I've worn glasses since I was 7 years old, and now my vision is 20/30, and I only need those glasses to drive. It's pretty incredible. I had never thought much about donor organ donations in the past, but as a recipient, I understand now the importance, and I believe my family and friends also recognize the value and the gift that can be given to others because of people who choose to be donors. I don't know who my donors were. I haven't. I wrote letters to the families, and I never got responses, but that's okay, because that's not what's important. What was important was my ability to write and to thank them, because they truly gave me a new outlook on life. And so I do thank, not only them, but all the donor families, from the bottom of my heart, for what you do and what you've done. One last thought that I would like to share. When I spoke at a previous SightLife event afterward, during the a small reception, an elderly woman came up to me, and she said, "Excuse me, are you the woman that talked about corneas?" I said, "Yes, that was me." And I have never forgotten her comment to me. And so I would like to share that with you. She said, "My husband was an organ donor, but he was so ill when he passed away that they weren't able to use any of his organs. The only thing they could take was his corneas. And I've always felt badly that he wasn't able to give more. But you've made me realize just how important his donation was to someone who couldn't see well." I leave you with that. Thank you.
Wow, Linda, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I was just so touched by how much your world changed and opened up with your transplants, and regaining just that clarity to be able to read again and just enjoy all the beautiful small moments in life that, it's just really beautiful. And I love seeing you on your motorcycle. That is fantastic. Well, our next speaker is a cornea recipient who is from Washington State, Michael. So Michael is a husband to his wonderful wife, Hillary, and father to 3 boys. So Michael, if you could please unmute your microphone and share your story.
Okay. So first of all, I just want to say I'm thankful to be here, to be able to share my story. I probably should have volunteered to go first because I'm already a mess, but just imagine going through life with a bunch of saran wrap taped over your eyes, or a big glob of Vaseline over your eyes, and try to figure out how difficult that would be to just go through life. When I was about, I've never worn, my eyesight has always been very good. I've never had problems with my eyes. I've never worn glasses growing up. Even up through college, my eyesight was great. It wasn't until I was about 30, in my 30s, between 30 and 32, where I could really start to see a fairly significant change in my eyesight and the way I was seeing things in the world. Everything was blurry. Daily tasks were becoming to be very difficult. Things like reading, driving at night especially was probably something I never should have done. My career in law enforcement was at jeopardy, and the way I supported my wife and kids was at jeopardy. And I was thinking about other ways other jobs that I could do to help support them, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this job for very much longer. So it just made my whole life started to make me think about life and what I'm going to be able to do and what I'm going to be able not to do. There was one situation where it was kind of, for me, was like the last final straw. I got to go in and get something done and figure out what's wrong. And at the time, I was a young father. My oldest son Peyton was 4, and my middle son Matai was 2. But I can remember being outside. Just playing with Peyton, and we were playing catch. We were throwing the ball back and forth, and it was hard. I just had a hard time catching the ball, and because I couldn't really see the ball until I got to be about a foot or 2 in front of my face. And for me, not being able to play with my kids and see their faces clearly was something that was the most important thing for me as a young father. Like most of you guys commented in the questions that were asked at the beginning, that what would be one thing that you guys would miss seeing, and a lot of people responded with family. And that was, at the time, that was the most important thing, most important thing for me. Not only that, but I went through college as a wide receiver. That's what I did. I caught balls, and I was not able to catch a ball because my eyesight was so bad. So I finally took the steps to go to the doctor. After a ton of testing, it seemed like it took forever. I was finally diagnosed with keratoconus. And as Jason explained, that's when the cornea thins and your eye starts to get shaped like a cone. So when the light comes in and then goes back out, it distorts the light, making everything pretty blurry and hard to see. But the process, after we got the diagnosis in my right eye, it was already to a point where nothing else could be done except for to have a transplant. In my left eye, it wasn't progressed quite as far, and they did a different procedure called corneal cross-linking, and that seemed to help out quite a bit in that left eye. So I haven't had any need for a transplant in that left eye. But after going back home, after that doctor's visit, when they said that I needed to get a transplant, me and my wife kind of discussed things, and we went over some of the concerns we had with the surgery, and they were just not, those concerns were just not as important as me being able to see and play with the kids and be able to see their faces clearly without squinting all the time. And so we ended up going in for the surgery. The surgery went pretty smooth. I think Jason mentioned that he was put asleep in his surgery. I was awake the whole entire time during mine. They just put some numbing stuff on my eye, and I was awake. I could see everything that was happening, that the doctor was doing during that time and whatnot. And the recovery after that, the recovery process was long. I know that some recipients experience some swelling and things like that, but I didn't experience any swelling. I felt like the recovery process went pretty smoothly. One thing that after several weeks of laying in bed in a dark room, because the sun, my eye was so sensitive to sunlight and everything around me. After several weeks of just laying in bed in a dark room. My 2-year-old, Ty, he came in, always wanting to help out, and was bringing me a glass of water. And he ended up turning the light on and and opening the blinds, and that was the first time I was able to just see his face so clear. His face was so clear. The colors were so bright. It was like a whole new world, and I'm just so thankful for donors and their families. At the time I got the transplant, I'm so happy for that I was able to do that, and I'm so happy that I'm able to see and have this new life with my kids and my wife. But at the same time, we're always so mindful of the loss and tragedy that goes into something like this for donors and their families especially. And for that, my family and I are so grateful for you guys and for all that you do to help other people who you don't even know. I have the opportunity to reach out to my donor's family. My doctor, after a few checkups, he asked me if I would be willing to write a letter, and I did. However, I've never heard back from them, and that's okay. Every year around on the day I got my transplant on February 10th, we kind of sit down as a family and we talk about, how my life has changed and how our life has changed because of our donor, my donor, and their family. So we try to do a little something to remember them, even though we don't know who they are, and just remember and talk about how grateful we are for people who are so willing to give. And that's kind of what we teach our kids, to give, to help out when people need it. Well, because of my transplant, my wife and several of my family members, I have a very large family. My wife and several of my family members have now become donors, and they've definitely as well seen the impact of this in their lives as well. So for that, I thank you, and I thank you all for all you do.
Thank you, Michael, so much for sharing that story and sharing yourself, because that's truly what you just did with sharing that story. Your heart is amazing, and you sure do like the Cougars. We love that. Okay, so now we are going to open it up for some question and answers. So I see a lot of you are thanking the folks for sharing their stories. Let's actually do a silent round of applause for our recipient speakers. Yay, yay. Thank you so much for all of you for sharing your stories. Okay, so if you have a question, please feel free to write it in the chat box. There were a couple of questions that I answered in the Q&A. A couple of people asked, about their loved ones recipients. And I would urge you to please email me, rebecca.grossman@sightlife.org, if you want to learn more about who received your loved one's corneas. I can't necessarily share the name and address, but I can help you as much as I can. Another question, and this was asked by someone. They wanted to know, do we only call families of registered donors? The answer, well, do you want to answer that question, Stacy? It actually was directed to you. I answered for you.
Oh. Well, absolutely. We do not only call the families of registered donors. We reach out to all potential donors to speak with their families and let them know about this possibility and give them all the information to make that decision. So even if you did not register, it's still a possibility, and we try to at least offer that opportunity to all families who might be able to give in such a way.
Thank you. Another question, and I am going to ask any of the recipients who want to answer. Was the transplant painful? Like, did you experience any pain, maybe not during the transplant, but after? Or what was the healing process like? And was it painful? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, Jason.
So for mine two were very different. My first one, it was actually like they gave me awesome pain medicine, so I was feeling great, and I slept for the first probably full day, honestly, on it, just because I knew I'd freak out if I didn't as well. So for me, it was more of a mental challenge than anything with the first one, because there wasn't a lot of pain, and then when they took off the patch, like I talked about in my story, I could see things were clear, it was vibrant, things were where they were supposed to be again, and it was just earth-shattering. But then for what I don't talk about in my story is for like 6 months until my next surgery, I had one eye that was good, that I was recovering from and having to be very careful with, and one eye that was a disaster. And so I had this, it was just like clear vision, horrible vision, and it was, the headaches were still there for that one for a while. So I had to deal with that, and I still had eye infections in that eye, and other things to deal with. But the second surgery, I did experience pain, and I was, Michael kind of talked about some of the things like that could happen, swelling and stuff like that. My eye was waterlogged. So it was like looking through a fish tank. And I didn't expect that. The first one was so good that I actually had nearly a nervous breakdown, and my mother was in town helping take care of me with my wife. And we ended up at the ER in the middle of the night because I was having a panic attack from the pain and from the waterlog. I just felt like something wasn't right, and it was just a complete panic. So that second one for me was much more, because the first one had gone so well that the second one just was much more of a mental challenge and painful one. It felt like a sunburn on my eye. So what I described to my family and friends is it just felt like somebody blared the sun on your eye, and you couldn't close your eye for like a full day, and it just burned, and it felt burnt. And that's what it felt like for about a week or two. And then one day I just woke up and the waterlog was gone, and the pain was much better, and it just got better after that.
Wow. Sunburn eye, that I really feel that. Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
pretty much the same thing that I experienced as well.
yeah.
I didn't have any swelling, or I didn't get a black eye or anything like that, or any bruising. It just felt like my eye was sunburnt, and it just would irritate everything I do. I mean, even when you blink your eye, you could feel the sutures that the doctor put in, and it just made everything really irritated. So, but as far as the recovery process for me, I thought it went fairly smoothly, as smoothly as it could. And I know that's not the same for everybody.
Mhm.
Wow, you guys are making me feel really, really blessed because I had no pain. Uh, I don't know why. And if my healing process was to be flat on my back a half hour out of every hour and all night long. And when I went for my 3-day checkup, the cornea was fully attached, and he said, "You're good to go." And when I did the second one, I was 9 out of 11 days flat on my back. So that one was tough because I was really tired of being on my back, and I was a little grouchy and probably a little hard to live with at that time too. But yeah, no pain. So I don't know what makes the difference, but
Thank you. All right, we have a question to all three recipients. Can you describe the feeling of connection you feel to your donor seen through their eyes? Might have to take a deep breath before answering that one.
I guess I can try to answer that. For me, that's a tough question. I mean, I don't know. I think in some ways I feel connected to them, but it's hard for me. It's hard to feel connected to someone I've never met, and I don't know. It's so, but we try to make that connection with my wife and kids every February 10th when I had my cornea transplant, and we try to make that connection, and at least, even though we don't know the person, we try to experience the feelings of that the family might have felt of loss and tragedy, and at the same time of the donor who was selfless and giving. And those are the feelings that we try to show our kids, and I try to explain to my wife that these are the things that we need to be like, and we need to be selfless, and we need to be caring and of other people, and mindful of others. So in that way, we felt like that's who our donor was, or my donor was, and that's the kind of person that they are, and when we like to remember them that way, and their families.
Thank you.
I think what Michael said was spot on. I think it's for me, I was fortunate enough to meet one of my donors' family, his fiance and his daughter, and able to give them a hug and them see me and stuff like that. So I felt I definitely feel a connection to them. I think the thing that's always stuck with me, and I think Michael is referring to this throughout his talk today, is the sense of responsibility of recognizing the gift, and the sense of the magnitude of it. So I honor them in everything I do in my job. Every time I work with a student in my job and I help them get into a college or find a job or something, I know that I wouldn't be doing that if I couldn't do that. I couldn't see a computer. I couldn't do those things if it wasn't for their gift. And so as that ripple effect for me, that's what in my entire life, and with my daughters being able to be adopted and their situation that they came from, this gift has touched hundreds and hundreds of people, everybody that I touch. And so to me, that's the connection. It's my goal to be out and making a difference in the world and giving back, more so than even I was doing before. And so that to me, it's about honoring and recognizing that.
Thank you, Jason.
I don't really think I can add anything to either of those. You've both said it so very, very well. Yeah, it's an amazing thing to think about. It truly is.
Here's a question, and I believe this is from a family in Pennsylvania. What was your reaction when you were told of your diagnosis and when you were told a transplant was possible? So what was that first reaction like when you heard from your surgeon? You know, maybe it wasn't, you know, exactly boom, boom, but you had this diagnosis, but we can help you. It's going to come from a donor transplant. What's that like? One word, kidding.
I think it for me, it created a lot of different emotions. Like, yippee, we can fix this. What if something goes wrong? You know, that you ran that whole gamut of what ifs, right? And you just leave it in somebody else's hands and go for it, right, guys?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It was, for me, because it's been 4 years, it was a relief. It was like I finally have an answer. And then it was, yeah, you're going to need a transplant. And so the first thing that I thought about was rejection, actually. And as you hear about that, like kidney and other like donations and transplants, rejection is such a huge part of it. You're on medication for your entire life, like all those kind of things. And so I was thinking, what if this goes south? What if this goes wrong? And the doctor and my surgeon, both, because they were both in the room at that time, both looked at me and said, the cornea is one of the most successful in a way because there isn't a lot of blood flow. And so it's one, that's why it takes so long to heal. And two, though, it also helps with lack of rejection, is what they told me. I don't know the science to that and the statistics of that, but that's what they told me. And I just remember walking out of there being like, I have an answer. There's a solution. I'm going to have a date and let's get this done with. And then it was living up those 6 weeks before my surgery, just cognizant of that something bad has to happen for that. And that's what I kept thinking about, is somebody's having the worst day in their last day. And it was just a tremendously difficult thing to think about, of my excitement is also somebody's family member being lost. And that's just a horrible thing to try to balance for me. And so that was a difficult thing to manage.
I think for me, when the doctor first said that, hey, you got keratoconus, my first thought was, okay, let's fix it. What's the solution? And then when he said it's a cornea transplant, then my wife and I were kind of like, whoa, like what are, like Linda said, like what all the what ifs come into mind, and what if my eye doesn't what if my eye rejects it, or those types of things. But I think at the end of the day, when we weighed everything out, it was what's the most important thing. And like I shared in my story, that at the time it was my wife and kids, and being able to see them and do the things that I love to do with them. And because all that was in jeopardy. So, I think when we finally made the decision to do it, I think it didn't take more than a week and a half or 2 weeks, and we were in for the surgery.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask one more question from the recipients. We're a little over time, so we'll just wrap it up with this last question. Thank you so much for asking all those great questions. Why did you agree to present at tonight's webinar?
Because we can't say no to you.
That, and also to give back. Just, I think the theme of all three of us is this comes with the responsibility. That's the way I've always looked at it, and to live my best life and to help others. And I've given these speeches to people to encourage them to sign up to be donors, to understand the impact that it has. And I've also talked to the families of the ones that have graciously donated in their time of devastation. And it's a responsibility and a respect thing for me. And that's why I'm here. And also I thoroughly enjoy it as well, because it just feels awesome to give back.
And I'll echo both of them, saying, it's a love and it's a love and respect and a responsibility, for the donors and their families. I speak as often as I can, and usually it's one or two times a year, or when I'm asked to, and but it goes back to what Jason said. Is I feel like it's a responsibility that I have to share how much this has changed my life, and that the donors' families know that this is something that changes people's lives, and that although they're experiencing tragedy and sadness, that in that they're giving others a new life.
Thank you all so much. And thank you again just for just sharing you. We appreciate you all, and it's really amazing just how unique and how great the donation community is, our donor families and our recipients.
And I just have to say the same. Your words are so powerful and so meaningful, and we are so grateful to hear your stories, and just thank you so much for being here to do that. And for everyone in the audience as well who's joined us, thank you so much for joining us here also. And we hope that you'll stay in touch with us. There's a lot of ways to do that. Definitely be on the lookout for invitations to future webinars, because we do plan to host more. Also, various donation celebrations that usually would be in person, currently are virtual. Also in November is iDonation Month. So as Rebecca said before, April is Donate Life Month. November is iDonation Month. So that whole month is dedicated just to celebrating cornea donation. And SightLife hosts a really special celebration event in November that is honoring our cornea donors. So we hope that you will join us for that. We also just regularly host donor family connection circles, which are just small gatherings where we connect for conversations or a special focus for the night. Things like craft nights, book clubs, and we'll even be doing some meditation and yoga coming up. Other than that, we also have our donor family Facebook page, and that is just a private Facebook group that is just for donor families. We have a donor family newsletter, Kaleidoscope, And that is a quarterly newsletter. The next edition will be coming out in June. We have a monthly blog on our website. It's on SightLife.org, and you can read about different topics that we think that might be helpful or interesting to our donor families. For any questions about how to participate in these events, or any questions at all about these activities or how to be involved, you can always contact Rebecca or myself. Our email addresses are on the slide there, and you are welcome to reach out to us via email anytime with any questions, or if you would like to join in.
Thank you, Stacy. Lastly, all of the stories you heard tonight would not be possible without folks like you. SightLife recently launched our Better Together campaign. If you choose to make a gift, you'll be helping to provide hope and healing to families like yourselves by expanding our aftercare program, reaching more potential organ, eye, and tissue donors through our donation transplant coordinators, and deliver more events like this one that provide opportunities for connection. Consider giving today and joining us at sightlife.org/bettertogether, because your support means more recipients like Jason, Michael, and Linda are able to experience the gift of sight. More families can find hope and healing through our aftercare program, and more donors can fulfill their wishes of giving a gift that carries on their legacy. In the next day or two, we're going to be sending you a email with a recording of this, as well as a survey. Please fill that out so we know how to better serve you with upcoming webinars. Thank you all again for being here and being part of this wonderful donation community. We really look forward to connecting with you again in the future. And we hope you do something that is meaningful to you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.